Oh my goodness. Officially the largest drop in Bitcoin's history in real dollar terms. It was unexpected by a lot of us, myself included. I didn't think we'd be going down this deep. How many times have I said the past year, John? 30, 40% max now. We've got a new floor. We hit 50%. So that's a projection has broken. I do still think we're not going to go to 80% again. I have been through Bitcoin going all the way up to 20K, back down to 3K, and then all the way up to 69, and then all the way back down to 16, and now all the way up to 126, and we're back down here to 70K now. We hit 59.9, just below, barely below 60K yesterday, or maybe early this morning, depending on where you are. And yeah, I understand completely that it's a gut punch for a lot of people who have not been through these cycles already. If you got in the past few years, this is hard to stomach, and it's going to be okay. The fundamentals are still there. All right. Bitcoin is still the best asset for this time and the future of humanity, to preserve your wealth over the long term, to protect yourself from the downfalls of the fiat money system. So you got to check your conviction, check in with your conviction. Maybe it's a little shaken right now. You are, as part of the personal responsibility that comes with hodling, you are responsible for your own morale. So do what you can to take a breath, remember why you're here, remember all the work that you've done to build up that conviction. This is when it's tested. This is why it's hard to hodl. And we are still here. We are unshaken in our core beliefs, not totally completely shaken here. Swan is here. We are very bullish about our future as a business, serving this industry and delivering this asset that will help build generational wealth for so many clients of ours. Our conviction remains, and we are here. We're going to be here. Even if we do go down 80%, we will be here because we know that the fundamentals are still strong. And today we are here to do a hefty dose, deliver a hefty dose of healthy hopium. We'll go around and see what people are thinking about this dip. We'll look at maybe why it happened. And John, let me hear how you're feeling right now.
Strong open, Brady. I love it. That was phenomenal. And I will add just a couple things. There could potentially be things that would alter my conviction in Bitcoin. Like I never want to come across as completely cavalier about it and say Bitcoin's fine no matter what happens. Just to clarify that. And I know you weren't saying that. So there could be things theoretically that could happen that would shake our conviction, that would test the thesis. I think it's clear that none of those things have happened. Bitcoin is the same asset it was 4 months ago. Actually, timing wise, funny to point out, the high was October 6th. So exactly 4 months ago to the day. So crazy what can happen in the world of Bitcoin in 4 months' time. And then the other thing I'll just add is there was a good post from Robert, who's infra on Twitter. He said, he put it this way, if you aren't hoping for lower prices, or another way to just put it is, if you're really emotionally upset about the price decline, then it's likely some combination of not really knowing what you own, not having enough conviction, too much leverage, or your time frame is just too short. You had expectations that something would play out over a period of months, whereas your time horizon should be like at least 2 years, ideally 3, 4, 5 years. So that's what I would say as just an opener, but let's get into it.
All right, let's hear from one of my favorites on-chain analysts, Checkmatey from Down Under. And he had this to say. And by the way, Hurley did an incredible show yesterday on No Second Best on this channel. And that's the flagship show of this channel. And he does amazing work. But yesterday was a particularly important day for Bitcoin content. And I think he really crushed it. I'm going to show a couple of clips from his show here today so we can react to them. But if you haven't watched No Second Best from yesterday, I highly encourage you to do so after this show's over. All right, here's Checkmatey.
There's two things that keep me bullish no matter what's going on. One, it's a 10x, more than a 10x improvement over its predecessor. And history shows that technology, as it evolves and we head to those 10x multiples, it takes over. And the second thing is, look at the quality of people who are Bitcoiners. Look at the diversity of their backgrounds. I'm a tunnel engineer. There's people who are doctors. There's people come from all these like fascinating, interesting backgrounds, energy traders, like all sorts of things. And they've all converged on the same thing, being like, Bitcoin's the best thing since sliced bread. You're telling me that all of these smart INTJ engineer types are just like, they're all dumb and idiots? No, the most bullish thing about Bitcoin is the people who get attracted to it. And I'm like, I'm not betting against those people, because the other cool thing about this, so many Bitcoiners, in fact, I would almost argue most, if not all, we came up and grew up in an era where the world hated Bitcoin. It's like every headline was negative. Every government didn't like it. It's getting banned. It's getting shut down. And yet we still formed enough conviction to be like, no way, I'm putting my whole life savings in this thing. So yeah, like we all formed a consensus that this thing kicks ass independently, whilst the government, the media, our friends, our weird uncle, everyone was telling us that we were dead wrong, and we stuck to our guns. I'm sorry, I'm not betting against those people.
Yeah, see, I love this. And I've thought about this a lot of times over the years, just the quality of people in Bitcoin who are, he says the IIT and J type, and Brandon Quittem has actually done a survey, informal, like non-scientific survey, obviously, on Twitter, asking Bitcoiners what your personality type is. And this was the predominant personality type. It was like INTJs and INTPs. And this is the type of person who really sits down and analyzes things, that is open to challenging the prevailing opinion and being convinced by evidence, and not just convinced by what everyone is thinking or saying. And there's absolutely incredible people, both intellectually and also just, I think, ethically in this space. And one thing you can do to help your conviction or check it at a time like this is just look around and see the quality of people who have come to the same conclusion as you. They're not people who are chasing this new idea just because it's interesting, or they're not piling onto a bandwagon. They're doing the work, they're studying, just like most of you have. I'm sure the vast majority of you watching right now have done the same thing, consumed books, articles, podcasts, shows. You wouldn't be here if you weren't doing that already. Just look around, see the quality of the people who have done the work and are convinced that this is a real thing and has a real opportunity to fit perfectly in this moment for humanity. It's a need that needs to continue and persist and grow over time. And so we're here to do that. We're here to help nurture it. We're here to take advantage of it. And it's still early, and we're going to watch a lavish quote. And we say that a lot. And, it's hard to tell when you're going to hit the asymptote of that S curve of adoption, or the gradually, then suddenly, when the suddenly is going to happen. But you just got to be patient, hang on to that conviction, and don't listen to the crazy uncle. John, your thoughts?
Well said, man. I'll just add, people should absolutely do what you said, which is look at the people who have developed conviction and listen to them. Also make the judgment for yourself. But yeah, look at the people who have developed conviction. It is a diverse in terms of backgrounds, skill sets, what they find most attractive about Bitcoin, how they communicate Bitcoin. I totally agree with Checkmate in that clip. I have always been floored by the amount of people that are convicted on Bitcoin. And I forget what he said, but it's like doctors, engineers, some TradFi people, lawyers, human rights activists, like on, historians, teachers, whatever. It is incredible to see that those types of people, different types of people, come to Bitcoin. So you should absolutely look at those people. But just to tee up what we're going to talk about a little later in the show, I think you should also look at the critics. And we have some critics who are getting noisy now. They're the usual characters, and listen to them. I think a great tell is if they are saying the same thing about Bitcoin they said 5 years ago and 10 years ago, but they're just saying it when Bitcoin went from 100 to 70. Same thing they were saying when it went from 10 to 7 or whatever cycle you're talking about. The joke is on them. They're just going to be saying it's a failure no matter what happens. And we have a few good clips of those perennial dancers on Bitcoin's grave.
Okay, let's move to James Lavish, who was on What Bitcoin Did with Danny Knowles, and I think had some very useful comments here in this moment.
I believe that what we are experiencing right now, Danny, is an information or a knowledge arbitrage.
Yeah.
And so people just do not yet understand how Bitcoin is different and why it is the ultimate store of value and the ultimate debasement asset. They just don't understand it yet. There's a lot of confusion. The mainstream media puts out confusing and hit pieces about it all the time. They commingle it with all the other cryptocurrencies, and they just call them all the same thing. And so I have friends who say, oh yeah, I own that. I own Bitcoin. I own the Solana one. And they just don't get it. And it's okay. It's not their fault. They're just not interested in doing the research themselves. And they're listening to mainstream media and getting their news off of Facebook or their research off of Facebook. They're just not getting it. And so there is an information arbitrage that you and I are experiencing right now. It feels bad, and it makes you feel like, am I an idiot? Am I just stupid how early am I here? And the answer is you're still pretty early, because I think that Bitcoin is going to trade above $1 million in early 2030s. 2032, 2033, I would be very surprised if we're not touching $1 million Bitcoin. That's me. That's my thesis. That's where I believe this thing is going. But I also believe that part of that is that arbitrage, that knowledge arbitrage will close. And as that does, you're going to have the Harvards and the Yales and the University of Texas and the CalPERS and the Texas teachers and every pension and fire fund out there taking positions in Bitcoin as a core asset. And when they do that, that's when that knowledge begins to really spread. And people are like, oh, so Bitcoin is different. Okay, so Bitcoin is different. It's not just this moonshot thing. It's digital gold. Okay, then I should probably own some. And funny enough, is I think that's going to be a much healthier rise for Bitcoin in price and a much more stable rise. It's not going to be this massive volatile thing. It's going to be like people are, oh, I get it. Okay, I get it. Oh, okay, I understand now. I understand how it's different. And then we'll feel vindicated, and we'll look like we're 143 years old when we're just in our 50s, or in your case.
The stress that comes with hodling. I don't know. You get to a point where it's not so stressful. I honestly haven't been phased by this emotionally. It's, again, been through the ringer from, what was it, 2K, 1K up to 20, and then down to 3, and then all the way back up to 69, and then down to 16, and all the way back up to 26. So once you've been through that a few times, it just doesn't phase you as much as those who might have gotten in recently. You're going through it for the first time. It definitely hit me when it crashed from 20 to 3K and I was questioning my thesis. I think what we've done here is a lot of us have been here for 10, 12 years or even more. So we get that hope up that it's going to happen sooner than later. When the suddenly is going to happen, what's going to drive the suddenly? When we pointed to all the factors, it's going to be institutional adoption, corporates putting it on their balance sheet, ETFs, nation states piling and stacking Bitcoin, right? And all these things have absolutely helped Bitcoin helped people be exposed to the idea of Bitcoin and the name of Bitcoin, but they have a surface understanding of it, right? And so people buying ETFs, hedge funds who are buying Bitcoin through ETFs and all this stuff, like they don't have that conviction long-term, that thinking long-term about it. So same thing happened with the 2 previous cycles that I went through. It was a lot of retail that came in riding that bandwagon, but didn't really understand what it was. And so they dump it. And so I think James is right. Once that conviction becomes more widespread outside of this relatively small community that we've developed as Bitcoiners, that's when that floor starts to raise. So it's not only like the companies need to start buying Bitcoin, hedge funds need to start buying Bitcoin, the ETFs need to come out. It's that they need to understand what they're holding and develop that long-term conviction. So we're still early in this understanding arbitrage right now, and we're just going to have to be patient. Continue to be patient. Yeah.
And maybe we should just give a shout out to the benefits of being 1x long Bitcoin, buy and hold. 1x in this case meaning no leverage. So there's 2 main ways that you can get into trouble. If you buy an option, that can expire worthless. That's not just buying Bitcoin and it goes down 40% and you say, I thought I would be up by now, but if I hold it for another year or 2, I'll probably be up. And then 2 years later, you even forget, or you just shrug off the fact that it went down. If you buy an option on IBIT, buy an option on MicroStrategy, any stock, it has an end date. You're making a bet on a defined period, whether it's the end of the month, the end of the year, whatever. if your bet doesn't play out, you lose everything. It expires worthless. So that is much more dangerous than just being 1x long. The other way to lose would be with leverage, because with leverage, there's going to be some sort of liquidation point. So it's there's not as much of a time component, but it's more of a price drawdown in magnitude component. And if it draws down too much, either while you're sleeping or if you don't have a plan to add more collateral, you can get liquidated at a price that is really unattractive.
Which is certainly played a part in what happened yesterday.
For sure. It maybe for, yes, it has. I was thinking more for average people. Yeah. They can even get liquidated, but yeah, you will get into some theories about big players who may have gotten liquidated that we're just scratching the surface in terms of figuring out what's going on there. So yeah, let's get into that.
All right, a couple more before we do. This is a sailor flying the Bitcoin flag on Fox News yesterday. Fox Business.
Bitcoin's been around for 15 years. It's had 15 major drawdowns. It's always come back to a new all-time high. If you zoom out, this is just par for the course. This is normal in the life cycle of an emergent transformational asset class, and it's a healthy thing. It clears out the tourists, the leverage, and the weak holders, sets the basis for the next rally upward.
That is the case, historically speaking. That is true. The haters will come out, and every time this happens, they say this is the last time. I wish in the media they would get pressed a little more on that. I wish the reporters would come back and say, hey, Bitcoin has done this 5, 6, 7 times, depending on how you define it. Why do you think this is the last hurrah? I should be pressed more on that, and they're not.
I agree. Okay, so here's a good tweet from yesterday. Richard Byworth. So stop freaking out. Bitcoin is without a doubt the best asset that money can buy. Real estate, liquidity trap with huge bid offer spread and ongoing bleed through maintenance and taxes. Gold, absolutely impossible to trade efficiently in the actual asset. Get robbed everywhere. Transportation, smelting, the broker fees, enormous, plus completely impractical to carry around. Equity is a total crapshoot. If you can invest in good allocators, then sure. But unless you're a great trader, then buy an index fund and underperform the real rate of debasement. Bonds, joke. Venture, be lucky. Lottery, at least you're honest at this point. Just buy Bitcoin. It's 10x better than gold, but trades at a 95% discount. Be grateful that you discovered it early and stop moaning that it's so cheap. There you go. I think that's a good rundown of your other options. What are you going to invest in? And this is a great post to put out yesterday for sure.
Absolutely. 10 out of 10, no notes.
No notes.
Really good job. I saw another good tweet, just reminded me of it, that said we time traveled back to spring of 2021 prices or something like that. And that's a good way to look at it.
That's right. Let's just time travel to the 2032 prices. All right. I like to watch the 200-week moving average because Bitcoin is almost tiny portion of its existence below the 200 weekly moving average. And this chart's just a little bit old. We did come down and almost touch it because it's sitting at right around 58K, which is great because if you have been in Bitcoin for the past 4 or 5 years, you know about the 58K gang if you're hanging out on Bitcoin Twitter. And that was the last cycle. There seemed to be this magnet support and ceiling at the 58K and just kept bouncing around there. So to me, it's poetic that 200-week moving average is now at 58K and we got super close to touching it. So if this little piece of healthy hopium, I think this is a chart, it is technical analysis, but this is a pretty fundamental indicator here. It's directly related to Bitcoin's price history.
Yeah, I think you qualified it perfectly. Yeah, it's technical analysis. It's not a rule of physics, but it can be helpful. There have been some fairly steady relationships on this throughout Bitcoin's history.
Yeah, I just like the long term of it. I think I put a little bit more stock in it when it's such a long horizon. You're not looking at a 1 day or 1 hour chart or something like that.
Yeah. And this will be something that, like, looking at a long-term moving average is a very common thing that any professional asset allocator would be looking at. So this is not like some obscure crypto only
short-term trader chart.
Yeah.
Go to swan.com and check out all of our products. We have Swan Private. John's the managing director. We help people out just directly one-on-one. text, call, there to help figure out these kinds of things like tax loss harvesting. We have an IRA product. So Bitcoin IRA, roll over your fiat IRA into a Bitcoin IRA. We also have Swan Vault, which is our collaborative self-custody service. So you hold 2 hardware keys and you put them in 2 different geographically separate places. And then you have a 3rd key on your Swan Vault account that you can use for transactions. So you don't have to bring your 2 hardware keys together for security reasons, or vault recovery as well. If one of your keys gets damaged, lost, stolen, etc., then we can create you a new vault and move your Bitcoin into that one. And so it's a great service. You can complete control, like the full promise of Bitcoin. You can hold the asset directly, but you don't have to do it alone. Great service, super awesome onboarding, really smooth. So it's turned into just a really great service as we've developed it over the years. Swan Vault, Swan IRA, Swan Private, and John at swan.com to learn more about any of those.